Well, hello there, YouTube. It's a somewhat nice Sunday afternoon, about 2:45. Moseying down, heading north on Jackson Highway, which used to be this was the main strip between Portland and Seattle. I want to say it's Highway 99 or something like that. I'll have to see if I can see a sign somewhere. But before, they put in the freeways in the 50s and 60s, this was how you made that trip. That bug sounded like it hit my GoPro, but it missed. Anyway, a little story I thought about was I was somehow or another got in a discussion with my wife about shifting motorcycles, and I was telling her how I learned to shift the first manual motorcycle. I'd ridden the little, Sears and Ward's go-karts, I think we all rode those as youngsters. I don't think they even exist anymore, but they might. But, there's no shifting. You're just one speed, just a lawnmower engine basically in there, and off you go. But my first motorcycle I received on Christmas morning of 1972. This was a Harley-Davidson X90. X marks the spot 90. It was a little mini bike. I want to say it was 12-inch wheels on it, but they were two-piece rims, similar to mini bikes that you see. They're about the size of like a CT70 wheels. Not like a Z50 of older. They were the bigger ones, so I may be wrong on the 12-inch. Maybe it's only 10, but anyway, it was the larger two-piece rims that you've seen on Hondas and Suzuki, and them I think had them also. But anyway, it was a 1973 model, and for the longest time I didn't realize that vehicles came out prior to their year of manufacture. I always thought I had something special because I had a 73 model that I got special in 1972. Anyway, I did not have a clue how to shift this thing. Not a clue. I mean, no idea. I did notice the little shift, which almost every motorcycle still to this day has that, the little shift pattern icon that's either molded into the case, or some of the newer stuff with plastic covers, it's actually a sticker that's on there. But anyway, it's a shift pattern, 1 down, 4 up, 5 up, whatever speed you got, And I think this little Harley, I think it was a 4-speed if I'm not mistaken. So it was 1 down, 3 up. Might have even been a 5-speed, I don't recall, but 4 seems more like it. But didn't have a clue. So it was just like, guessing in the dark on how to get this thing going. And my old man, he didn't know anything about motorcycles, so he didn't know. Nobody in our neighborhood, this was up in Texarkana, Texas, by the way. Nobody in the neighborhood, in this neighborhood rode motorcycles, so they didn't know either. It's not like I was going to go knocking on doors. Hey, do you know how to shift a motorcycle? But I would, fiddle around with the shift lever and get the thing going, and wouldn't shift. I was under the impression that it was a lever that progressively went up. Looking at the shift pattern on the side of the case, so it just didn't make any sense. But I'd goof around, I'd get it in the gear, and I'd just ride around. I wouldn't try shifting, just goofing off. And so I go across Moore's Lane. It was a highway that was at the end of our subdivision, and across the way was would I still be in grade school? Hell, I don't know. Yeah, I think I was still in grade school. But anyway, yeah, grade school. He was a school friend of mine, and his parents' house was across the way, and his mother got remarried, and she had married a Latino gentleman, that good-looking guy, kind of a big guy, friendly, very, very broken English though. I had a hard time understanding him. But my friend, he was just like almost an albino. You know, this is, 72, so he had this long blonde hair. I mean, he had hair that a lot of girls would be jealous of. But he was a cool guy and everything. Anyway, I couldn't wait to go over on Christmas morning and show him my new motorcycle, So I make my way over there, get to his house, and he goes, well, let's see it go, So I go to take off in this little street out in front of his house, and I can't get the thing to go, and I'm fiddle farting. I don't know which way to go on the shifter. I had no concept of a constant mash and the shifter, always returning to a neutral position, it's sequential, Anyway, I have no idea. I was probably trying to take off in 4th gear, 3rd gear, whatever, but it just, I could not get the thing going. Well, all of a sudden I hear the screaming, and I look across the front yard, and here's the stepdad, young lad waving at me. Here's the stepdad hanging out one of the front windows of his house, screaming at me. And he's what I gathered was, you're in the wrong gear. And I was, even though I was that young, I was pretty well aware I was in the wrong gear because it wasn't taking off. But I didn't know how to get it back to where it needed to be, And so, I keep going and keep trying, and he's going, it's in the wrong gear, and he's doing this little thing with his hand, doing this little flapper thing. And I'm going, he's trying to tell me something. And I'm thinking, man, I know that there's that little thing on the side of the engine case. He's got to be talking about that, So I finally fiddle farted around, get the thing in a gear that it would take off on. In case you don't know, back then Harley-Davidson didn't make 90cc two-strokes. They were an Italian-made, or Machi, I think is how you pronounce it. I think the Italians actually say it different, but anyway, it was a little Italian-made two-stroke. It was part of that AMF, Sporting Goods, or whatever that company was that was actually the owner of Harley, I think, at the time. But anyway, I got the thing going. I make it down to the end of their road, which kind of teed, and I stop, and I get off, and I look down there at that little picture of the shift pattern on this thing, and I'm going, oh man, it can't be this easy, So I rock the thing back and forth, just keep clicking all the way down, and I take off, and it just, wants to go right out of the gate. I'm like, oh my god. So I shift into second, and shift into third. I'm like, oh my god. So I'm going back and forth as I get back to his house. And by the time I get back down the street to his house, now his dad's standing in the front yard next to my friend Tim. And I come pulling up, and in his broken English, he's telling me I'm trying to take off in the wrong gear. He goes, you're in the wrong gear. You're never going to take off that. You're going to burn the clutch out of it. He's kind of reading me the riot act, because I'm sure I was Joey slip clutching the hell out of that thing. And so anyway, I go, being a dumb kid and not want to look like a fool, in your fancy, beautiful, bluish green Harley, I said, yeah, no, I couldn't get it to go back into first. And he goes, So he just kind of waves, and I take off from first gear, and I'm riding. But it's one of those things where a gentleman that could barely speak English, essentially, he didn't teach me, but he triggered what I wasn't understanding. So essentially, he did teach me, I guess. Taught me how to shift a motorcycle for the first time. And I never went back. I never thanked him or told him that, it was you waving your hand, doing these gestures, like you were doing shift pedal movements that triggered how to shift a motorcycle. You know, I think I drove past again. There's one, yeah, I did drive past it. It's one of these roads that goes up one of these hills pretty high, and you can look back over the Chehalis Valley, or whatever that would be called. But I thought it was right by one of these stores. I may have already passed it. But, anyway, kind of a weird story, yeah. Let's see, my remote has died. So I'm going to sign off. And I've got one more story with the same friend. Tim's his name. I haven't seen him since 1977, so he probably doesn't even, I remember his last name, but I'm not going to say that. But even if he stumbled across me, he may not even remember who I am. So anyway, I'm going to sign off for this one, and I'll come back real quick for another one. If I can find the button.